Hi, I'm Paul Brodie. This is my shop. Mitch is behind the camera. We would like to thank all the subscribers. Yesterday at supper time, we hit 1,000. We did 1,000 in 107 days. So thank you very much. We're doing a small run of stem caps today. This is a stem cap. It goes into a quill stem. This is for an inch. There's two sizes, there's 1 1/8". And all stem caps are created equal. You see how this one has a nice radius to it? I made this one yesterday, and this is one that was made probably in Taiwan. Now it's got an edge on it. Can you see how my nail catches on that edge? I have a story about stem caps. I was riding up in Whistler years ago. It was the end of the 80s. Got mosquitoes here. And I was riding on a small trail with a friend, and there was a log. And I went over the log, and the chainring caught, and I launched. I wasn't going that fast, but I went forward, and I hit my crotch right here on the stem cap, and it hurt a bit. And I checked, and I had ripped myself open. And there was, I wasn't bleeding, but I knew I was hurt, so I pedaled to the hospital, and I got 11 internal stitches and 11 external stitches, and there was a race the next day. I didn't make it to the race, but everybody heard that story at the time. So on a mountain bike, I've crashed lots of times. You have to be careful. You got to stay safe. So we're going to make a small run of stem caps today. We're going to use a couple things. We're going to use the lathe, we're going to use the bandsaw, there's no welding, and I have a couple special tools. This is a tool which cuts the radius. That's basically the last step. And this is the holding tool that holds the stem cap while we cut the radius. So let's go over to the lathe. We'll start to make some cuts. I'll explain the drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to face it off. I'm going to machine a shoulder there and a step, and then I'm going to take a small cut up here, because that's going to make this surface a concentric with this part here, and that's important. So I've got a bunch of rods here. I'm going to do each end. I'm going to do several rods, and then we walk over to the hacksaw and we cut them all off, and we do that a few times, and then we go on to the next operation. So it's done in stages. We're not doing just one. This is a run. I'll face the end. So what I want to do now, I want to use a vernier, and I want to space this out from off the chuck, and then I'll set up an indicator down here so that when the carriage moves along with the automatic feed, I can make it stop at the 0, and then I get the same amount each time. I don't have to measure. So let's set this up to some arbitrary spacing. It's like 1.2 inches. And I'll do this every time because it'll make it easier. So there we go. I use the vernier, and I set how far the aluminum comes out. If I was just doing one, I wouldn't do this, but this is why I'm doing this, because it saves time when I'm doing a batch. Move this a little bit to get it in line with the carriage. And I zero that. So when I bring this in and that hits there, so that's on the 0 when the tool is hitting the end. And on the drawing, it's 425 thousandths. So what I'm doing is I'm moving this now. When I go around 1, it's 125 thousandths. So I go around 1, 2, 3. So that's 375, and then I add 50, and that's my 4 1/4. So when I take a cut now, and I go to the 0, I've gone in 425 thou. I hope that all makes sense to you. So we had 12 thou more to come off. So I'm on the 0 here. So I'm going to move this back to the 120. So that means I'm taking another 5 thou. If I move this in 5 thou, it moves the tool bit 5 thou, and it takes off the cut from either side. So move in 5 thou, it takes a total of 10 thou. So you have to think about that. It's right on the 0. So I know for next time, I know exactly where I have to move this to get that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little skim cut right off here so that this becomes a concentric with this size right here. And that's my skim cut. Can you see how much I took off? That's the size of the chip. It's very, very, very small. Only took off a couple thou aside at the very most. So now I have to break the corners, because if I don't do that now, it gets really difficult. So I've got a wood file which works really well on aluminum. Okay, so that's the first part done. I have to drill some holes now. So we're going to use 3 different drills. I've got a center drill, get them in order. I got a center drill, I got a 1/4 inch drill, got an 8mm drill because the bolt that goes right through the middle, 8mm. So this won't take long. Aluminum's pretty soft. That is the first one done, or the first end done. So I need to repeat that a bunch of times. I have some friends asking for stem caps, so it'll make a few people happy, I think. I'll just do a quick check here. It just fits inside. And that's what I want, so that when this spins, this is concentric. So I flip it around, we'll do the other end. Okay, so we're on the second one. I've set the reach, or how far it sticks out of the chuck with my old vernier. And now I'll do some machining, and I'm using the dial indicator as my stop. 1/2 thou under, that's fine. Okay, I'm happy with how this is working out. I just have to make a bunch of chips. mentioned it earlier, but I have a new lathe light. It's a lot better than the big thing that was hindering Mitch from filming and things like that. We're going to go to the hacksaw now. We're going to set up a stop. We're going to cut these off, and then the next operation is to flip these around and face off. We have 12 pieces here. We're going to hacksaw off the end. I've got a little trick using a feeler gauge. So this is a flexible one. This one's a little stiffer. Doesn't really matter what it is. It's 37 thou. So I set up the stop, but I put this feeler gauge in between the metal and the stop, and the reason is as the blade cuts through, it cocks the metal, and then it either jams the blade or it moves the stop. When there's a little bit of space, your stop never moves. So let me show you how we do that. This is the stop. It's nothing fancy at all. So first what I'll do is I'll set up where I want the blade to cut, and the blade, if it cuts at an angle, which it is, it cuts away from it, so that's good. I got my 250 right there, 0.250, and then I want to put, that's not bad, it's got to be a little closer. So there we go, see how it's in there? But there's a space so that when this piece of metal separates, it doesn't hit the stop and move the stop. It's important. So here we go. So on the second go around, this is what I do. I put in the feeler gauge like that. I can rest the blade down, I tighten it up, and then I pull out the feeler gauge, and then I make my cut. Simple. I didn't make, oh, you can just see the start of the hole. So when I face it off, you're going to have a hole. It looked like I didn't drill a hole. When you're doing runs of things, you end up with a bunch of stuff, obviously, and so, you know, sometimes I have a piece of plywood and I load it up with that, but for this I've got a little tinfoil tray. We can use the chuck drawers as a stop now. So each of these pieces is going to go into the chuck, and the shoulder there is going to go up against the jaws of the chuck. I'm going to set this up so it takes off the right amount of metal. I'm going to lock the carriage here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this drill bit. This one has been ground so that it goes inside and it cuts the counter bore. See that line there, that red felt pen line? Maybe that's a bit crude, but it works. When I go right to the end of the line, that is the right depth for an Allen screw, because I don't want the Allen screw to be sunk in. I don't want it to be proud. It's got to be right. And then I take off the burr. So this is the third operation out of 4. So here we go. If I check the depth, see how the shoulder is at the same level as the face here. That's what I wanted. I didn't want this to be out, and I don't want it to be sunk in. That's right where I want it. So my felt pen mark is working. So I'll do all 12 now, and they'll all be the same. look at that. I'll take out the stem cap and I'm going to put in the holder. This is going to be the holder. We're going to hold it right here in the chuck. I'm going to use the dial indicator and then we're going to see what the run out is. If it's really accurate within a thou, I'll leave it. If it's not accurate, we'll take off the 3-jaw, we'll put on a 4-jaw chuck. So we'll set this so it's at the middle. And I need to go inside just a little bit like that. So we're going to watch the needle. Okay, so at one point it was a new chuck and over the years they get worn. So that's not acceptable at all. So in behind the chuck here is a cam lock. You can see how there's a square there. So you loosen these. There you go. Hear that little click? So now the chuck just comes right off. Everything has to be really clean because if you have a little piece of metal, obviously the chuck's not going to sit right against the face. So it's important that this gets cleaned quite well, and the chuck too. Here's the 4-jaw chuck. So I'm just going to blow that off. It's got a little bit of weight, but it's not that bad. So we plug it in. There we go. And now we tighten up the cam lock. So there we go, we got a 4-jaw chuck on there now. So I'm going to switch on the lathe and you can see how out it is. So it's definitely out. A 4-jaw chuck is really handy when you're holding something which is an odd shape or it's rectangular or square. 4-jaw chuck is very handy sometimes, but you don't have to use it all the time. So I put this in here like that. When this comes towards me, see how the needle goes clockwise? So I know that when it comes towards me, I need to tighten that jaw. So it's a process. So there you go. That's the closest it is to me. So I tighten that. Then I go on the other side and I loosen it. And I go back and forth. Tighten it, loosen it. You can see how it moves a little bit each time. And then after a while, I'll probably have to do the other two because it's not all this way. So that's tighter. So I have an Allen screw, Allen wrench, stem cap. So that goes in like that. And one of the reasons that this needs to be extended is because the tool that makes the radius, if I hold the stem cap in the chuck, I can't get the tool in there. It's a tool that I made specifically for stem caps. It's never done anything else, so it doesn't get used much, but it's not going bad. So here's my special tool, and I can show you how it's made. It's grease hold. No, maybe it doesn't want to come apart. It's grease. There you go. That's all it is. It doesn't have a ball bearing or anything. It's just white lithium grease that holds it together, and that's how it turns. So we'll feed it in. Okay. And that is the tool bit. Can you see right there? That is the tool bit that's going to cut right there. I thought about this tool quite a bit when I made it because it wasn't real simple to make because there's not a lot of room between this and the cross feed. So I got that at 0. I'm calling that 0 there. I have some metal polish. It's called auto sol. You can polish chrome, you can polish aluminum. Let's just try a little bit. Oh, that's a lot. They look pretty nice when they're all polished up like that. So we'll take them over to the bench, do a final inspection. So what we have here is a run of 12 stem caps. Not a huge run, but you got to see the process, and maybe there was a little bit more to it than you've had first imagined, but thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed our episode. Stay safe. See you next week. Bye-bye.